Her wedding day turned into a nightmare. This is Lila Bennett's journey to strength and dignity. Morning sunlight streamed through the delicate lace curtains of the bridal suite, bathing the room in soft golden hues. Lila Bennett stood before a full-length mirror, gently adjusting the flowing folds of her wedding dress. The ivory fabric shimmered, hand-sewn beads catching every ray. It was everything she dreamed of: elegant, timeless, perfect. Yet, despite the beauty around her, Lila's chest felt tight, an invisible weight pressing down. The joy of the day was muted by something she couldn't name. "Girl, you look like a queen," her best friend Sarah Collins said, stepping back to admire her. "If Ethan doesn't drop to his knees at the altar, I'll drag him there myself." Lila managed a small laugh, but it rang hollow even to her. Normally, Sarah's playful teasing could break through anything, but today it barely dented her unease. Her heart thudded heavily, the disquiet that had simmered since last night growing stronger. The rehearsal dinner had been tense. Ethan Parker, her fiancé, had seemed distracted, his mind 1,000 miles away. His mother, Margaret Hayes, had barely hidden her disdain for Lila's family and the cultural traditions she'd woven into the ceremony. Margaret was always polite on the surface, but made no secret of her preference for a daughter-in-law who better fit the Hayes family's polished image. "Lila," Sarah's voice cut through, snapping her back to the present. "You okay? You've been staring at yourself for, 5 minutes. Cold feet." "No," Lila replied quickly, shaking her head. "Not cold feet. She hesitated, searching for words. "I want a day to be perfect. It has to be perfect." Sarah gave her a knowing look, raising an eyebrow. "Is this about Ethan's mom? Because I swear, if she tries anything today—" "Don't," Lila interrupted, holding up a hand. "It's not worth it. She's old-fashioned. Ethan says she'll come around." Sarah snorted. "Old-fashioned? That's a nice way of saying rude." Lila smiled faintly but didn't respond, turning back to the mirror, smoothing her gown with shaky hands. Her thoughts drifted to last night, when she'd seen Ethan speaking in hushed tones with his publicist. She hadn't caught their words, but it left a sour taste. Was their wedding about love, or was it a calculated step in Ethan's carefully curated public image? A sharp knock at the door startled them. Sarah answered, and there stood Ethan, polished in his tailored tuxedo. "You know it's bad luck to see the bride before the ceremony, right?" Sarah teased, folding her arms. Ethan gave a stiff smile. "I'll risk it. Just need a minute with Lila." Sarah hesitated, her protective gaze darting between them. "Fine, but if you stress her out, I'll hunt you down." She shot Ethan a warning look before stepping out, leaving them alone. Ethan closed the door and faced Lila. For a moment, he said nothing, his eyes sweeping over her from head to toe, lips curving into a small smile. "You look stunning," he said softly. "Thank you." Lila's voice was calm, but her nerves were frayed. "What's wrong?" Ethan sighed, running a hand through his neatly styled hair, a telltale sign of unease. "It's about the jumping the broom thing." Lila's chest tightened. "What about it?" "My mom," he began carefully, "she's concerned. She thinks it doesn't fit the vibe of the ceremony." Lila blinked. "Concerned," she repeated. "Ethan, it's a tradition. It's important to me." "I know," he said quickly, "but she thinks it might stand out too much. We can find other ways to honor your culture without what?" Lila cut in, her voice sharp. "Without making her uncomfortable?" The silence was heavy. Ethan stepped closer, his tone pleading. "Come on, don't let this ruin the day. It's just one thing." Lila turned away, staring at her reflection. The woman in the mirror looked strong, beautiful, ready, but inside, something was fracturing. "I'll see you at the altar," Ethan said softly, kissing her cheek before leaving. As the door clicked shut, Lila let out a shaky breath, her hands trembling. Sarah reappeared, her sharp eyes catching Lila's expression. "What did he say?" "Nothing," Lila whispered, voice tight. It's fine. But it wasn't. The ceremony was picture perfect on the surface. Sunlight filtered through the trees at Rosewood Manor, flowers bloomed vibrantly, and a string quartet played softly. As Lila walked down the aisle, she should have felt like the happiest woman alive, but all she noticed were the subtle glances among Ethan's relatives. The broom she'd wanted to jump was conspicuously absent, a last-minute change she hadn't approved. Ethan smiled as she reached the altar, but his grip on her hands felt mechanical, rehearsed. The vows were delivered flawlessly, as if for cameras and guests rather than from the heart. When the officiant paused, expecting Margaret to stand, no one spoke and the ceremony pressed on. As Ethan kissed her and they turned to the applauding crowd, Lila caught Margaret's gaze, cold, unreadable, devoid of warmth. This was just the beginning. The reception hall at Rosewood Manor sparkled with elegance, chandeliers glowed, tables gleamed with white linens, silverware polished to a mirror shine. Guests laughed, mingled, and toasted the newlyweds, but Lila's mind was elsewhere. Ethan had been glued to his phone since the ceremony, texting or whispering to his publicist, who'd somehow made the guest list. Her mother approached, concern etched on her face. "Baby, you okay? You look tense." Lila forced a smile. "I'm fine, Mama. Just a lot to juggle." Her mother squeezed her hand, her gaze soft. "You look beautiful. Don't let anyone steal this day from you." But the cracks were widening. When the DJ announced the first dance, Lila found Ethan at the bar, distracted. "It's time," she said, voice low. "Right, sorry," Ethan muttered, pocketing his phone. They swayed on the dance floor, but the intimacy was gone. Ethan's movements were stiff, his eyes scanning the crowd as if performing rather than sharing the moment. Then came Margaret's speech. "I just want to say how proud I am of my son," she began, her voice sweet but barbed. Ethan has always been generous, always looking out for those less fortunate, and now he's extending that generosity to his choice of bride. The room fell silent. Lila froze, her heart pounding. She glanced at Ethan, waiting for him to defend her, to say anything. He stared at his plate, avoiding her eyes. The humiliation burned. That night, the final blow landed during the cake cutting. Margaret made another cutting remark about Lila's family contributing so little to the wedding. Lila's composure shattered. She turned to Ethan, voice trembling. "Are you seriously going to let her say that?" He sighed, exasperated. "Not now, Lila. Don't make a scene." And then it happened. In his frustration, Ethan raised his hand and slapped her. The room went silent. The music stopped. All eyes turned to them. Lila touched her cheek, the sting of the slap mingling with the humiliation searing her. Slowly, she faced the crowd, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, cold and clear, "this wedding is over." Without another word, she walked out of the hall, leaving Ethan and his family behind. Outside, the night air hit her like a jolt, cold and sharp. Sarah found her moments later, wrapping an arm around her. "You did the right thing," Sarah whispered. "You're stronger than all of them." The next morning, Lila woke on Sarah's couch, still reeling. The days that followed were a blur, packing her things, filing restraining orders, ignoring the barrage of messages from Ethan and Margaret. But with the unwavering support of her family and friends, Lila began to rebuild. She poured her emotions into a journal, writing the truth of what happened. "Love isn't about sacrifice," she wrote. "It's about respect. And I'll never settle for less again." In time, Lila found peace. Her story became a beacon of strength and resilience, proof that even in the face of betrayal, it's possible to rise and reclaim your dignity. Ethan and Margaret faded from her life, their influence nullified by her courage. Lila emerged stronger, her heart whole, ready to build a future on her own terms, surrounded by those who truly valued her.